we put out a short video on what the Reclamation Road scenario is about, which morphed from this barn again thing to actually trying to change the great disappearing act of the 21st century, which is we've lost the middle class, and we're losing all these small towns. And a big part of why I involved George in it was because you're not just losing the small towns, you're losing the stories of the small towns. And the stories are also about not who built the barn, but who was digging the dirt before the barn was ever there. So Heritage Salvage has been saving lumber from the landfill for a long time. And of course, everybody knows that the salvage business has actually been a growing, fabulous business. I mean, this week we unloaded 15,000 board feet of bleacher boards from 5 schools in Kansas City, Kansas. And bleacher boards are really cool. In fact, Dean Biersch was looking at them today for his new hot monk. And you know, there we go. So Heritage Salvage reclaims, reuses, and repurposes old building materials. Reclamation Road wants to reuse, repurpose, and resuscitate small towns in America that are dying. And we also want to carry their story on, you know, and that's, in comes George. He's my okay, George, but who was, who buried their arrowheads here? Whose pot shards or whose, mortar and pestle are sitting at 10 feet underneath this barn? Who was here first? George said, well, I'll come along as long as we can go fishing, do a little hunting, and if I can ride a horse. So now instead of taking trucks across the country, we're going by horse.
It's going to take a couple hundred years.
Pulling large
I'd like
wagons.
to fly on that horse.
Yeah.
So we watch that. Yeah. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
George, give us a little of your background, which is, to me is fascinating. I mean, journalism. You worked as a news producer for KPIX and KGO, and you're Choctaw Indian and black.
And Chinese and Scotch-Irish.
Wow. He's a melting pot on 2 legs.
I'm from Louisiana, what do you figure?
Yeah, born in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I did a lot of TV stuff back in the day when they were using film and not video.
Mm-hmm.
AP, San Francisco Chronicle, Modesto Bee, Sacramento Union when they had one up there in the newspaper. So I've done a lot of stuff in the news business. I always liked to be a feature writer because I like stories, which is what I like about the Heritage Salvage thing. We're all hardwired for stories. That's why old people always repeat themselves. That's why little kids always want you to do the same book over and over. It drives you nuts, right?
Right on.
But we want to hear story. And what happens is that's how you define yourself. That's how you define within a culture. And when those stories disappear, all you get is a lot of shopping malls. So
Get to the point, would you?
Yeah.
All right.
So, in those little towns, all these people, they may or may not really care about who buried the park shards and things. But it's part of who they are really, because their granddad knew that and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of carries on like the mosaic of the country, which is really kind of neat. And all that's fall, it's just got a lot of neat stuff in it. So that's why I'm interested in Heritage Salvage and the whole thing about the story behind it. And he makes really neat stuff too.
Hey.
Yeah, no kidding. And by the way, Bug has done, built, or added on to famous places in this area, including, and not just this area, but since we're in this area, Hot Monks and various restaurants, including the reworking of Syrah to become Petite Syrah with Josh Silvers. And many, many more.
And Lagunitas and the worst in Healdsburg, and
And it's all about the wood, folks, all different kinds of wood that Bug finds, reclaims, rebuilds. It's amazing.
One morning in Occidental, I walked in and one of the contractors was sitting there and he says, Bug, he says, I got the perfect t-shirt for you. He says, I got the slogan. I'm going, what's that? He says, we got old wood, and it still works good. And I thought, oh, there's a t-shirt. All the old guys will buy one.
Sure. Well, it's good when your wood works good.
See, I didn't say anything. I thought that stuff. But
all right. So explain a little more how George is involved in what you're talking about.
Well, I mean,
besides
when
riding the horses across country.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, our history and like we're talking, storytelling, you know? I mean, like in the malls, and then how does the conversation go in the mall? Well, and then
I'm all,
yeah, so the stories, before the stories were, when you think about it, all told around a campfire, and nobody was writing anything down. It was, you tell the story, and you make sure you listen, because you're going to be telling the story tomorrow. And there'll be a quiz sometime, and although, you know, who knows, I mean, for me, let's see, I know you've never embellished a story in your life, Jaxon.
Of course not.
And I'm sure George has never done
Never,
such.
never.
No. And I, though, will admit to embellishing a story. Like, I mean, excuse me, we built the Rick House. The boys that own Future Bars in the city of San Francisco, they own a speakeasy that's actually right over an old speakeasy called Bourbon and Branch. Right? And you have to press the button and know the password to get in.
Right.
And then we built Rick House, and they wanted the inside of Rick House to look like an old whiskey barrel from sort of the outside in. And I said, well, I'm taking down this 100,000-gallon water tank. So, and you know, it was up over the Dominican College. And so the guy said, well,
And
you
no
know,
longer in use. And
yeah, no longer in use. Yeah. And so they said, well, so give us, oh, hang on a second, I have to get
Bug's
this.
getting a phone call.
So I said, well, here's the deal. It was up on top of Dominican College. That's where they got all their water from. And the thing is that the nuns that taught at Dominican College actually had a whiskey still inside the tank. And here's photographs of them with wheelbarrows coming out of the whiskey tank with large hoppers full of, the water tank with large hoppers of whiskey. And so I told the whole story. Well, the two Irishmen that owned Future Bars told all of their bartenders, here's the drill. When somebody asks you where this stuff is from, this is what you tell them. And to this day now, 5-6 years later, every bartender in there, you say, okay, wow, where'd you get all this cool wit? Oh, well, they're the nuns, the Dominican nuns.
Who were making whiskey in the water tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took the water tower down.
Yeah. You know, I mean, so that's how stories are made, right, George?
Yeah, don't know.
So I wanted George to come along with me to be able to dig beyond me, my superficial level of just finding out who built the barn. Let's get George to dig underneath and go, okay, do you realize, I mean, like, we're taking down a mill in Crestline, Ohio, and what's the story? And it's in Crawford County. Give us a little short story of Mr. Colonel William Crawford.
He was fried at the stake for killing a bunch of Indians.
Now, come on, you can tell that better. Okay, what did he do first? What they killed some women and children.
Yeah, there was a massacre that occurred.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
That's refurbished my brain.
Okay, brain refurbishing. Is that extra? Yeah, I mean, you know, in essence, George uncovered the fact that him and his cronies had killed a bunch of men, women, and children who had already become Christian
Yeah, they were in a
converts
mission, weren't they? They were in a
in
mission,
Pennsylvania.
yes.
Right. And so then Colonel Crawford sort of showed up in Crawford County. Well, it wasn't then.
He's a hero,
but,
an Indian fighter.
Yeah, and the Indians.
So he killed Indian men, women, and children and became a hero, and they named the county after him.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and you know, and as George puts it in video number, I think 5, thank you very much, he says, well, basically they tortured him for a couple hours and burned him at the stake. They were a little mad at the guy.
We're irked, Mr. Crawford.
Irked, yes, irked, I like irked, yes, indeed. So, I want George to come along, and then my good friend George all of a sudden went, you know, he lost 60 pounds on me all of a sudden, and I'm looking at him going, what? WTF, George? He bumped into that little thing called cancer along the way here.
There you go, yep, that's it.
Yeah, and you know, I was in Ohio at the time, and I got a call from, I think, Lynn, saying that, you know, gee, this happened to George, and darn it, everybody's calling up George and going, oh, George, I'm so sorry. And I called up George and I said, George, WTF? what's going on? I wrote you into the show already. You can't, you can't duck out on me. So,
and we know he won't.
no, he's not. No, we're.
George is going to be part of Reclamation Road.
Yes.
And has been already.
Yeah, yeah.
And you live in Occidental?
Yeah, Occidental, California.
Okay.
Wonderful little spot.
And your resume and your bio is outrageously interesting. So much that you've done. And these days you are, besides working with this crazy man?
I'm basically kind of trying to recuperate, get my health back, living in my teepee. Part-time anyway.
Yeah, you live part-time in a teepee.
Yeah, my teepee. My wife actually got it, ordered it up, and we like it a lot. It's, it provides like a sacred space actually.
Yeah.
For me to go and sit there, and it's kind of anything. I'm not really big into woo-woo. I'm into Indian woo-woo, but otherwise, it's, no, I did medicine up there. I did all kinds of, every religion in the world, guys are saying prayers for old George, and he appreciates it. And I got holy water, I'll put it on. I get, the Buddhist guy, I'll do that. I'll eat soybeans or something, And basically, I'm starting to feel better. And I think it all works, whatever
That's beautiful,
it is.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and if you dissect it and go, well, I don't know, what really worked? Probably number one is believing something is going to work.
And sense of humor. And I'll tell you
Amen.
I'll tell you one thing. When I was up, I go to the infusion rooms up there, and there's some really terrible looking people. I mean, they look like they're beat to hell. The worst ones are young people, because old guys, well, what the hell, they had their time, But the young people, but no one's complaining. And they've kind of accepted where they're at. And there's a lot of bravery that goes on behind the scenes. Those are stories. Those
Right.
kind of things, I ran an old, I was sitting up there in a chair one day, last time I was there, and people were looking at each other, me and my wife's there, this older, well, we're all older couples. And they're looking over and they say, "Are you George Snyder?" And I said, "Yeah. I used to see you over at gatherings with the Pomos and all those other guys." And I said, "Well, yeah." So here we are sitting there. I got medicine from her, Essie Parrish, back in the 70s in the old roundhouse up on the Kashaya. And that's her grandmother. And just to have that connection,
Really?
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And that happened in the ward at the
Up in
hospital.
the Redwood Medical Center up there by the Round Barn. And that stuff happens, so.
Right, connections. We got to remember all our connections, I mean, it's not just the talking story, it's also who you talk story with.
And of course, if you're in an area like around Deerfran with the time, you just sort of end up creating a network of connections, huh? It's kind of like
Yeah.
a huge body, a nervous system or something.
Yeah. It all comes together and it all,
Yeah.
it all makes
I
sense.
mean, like, you, Jackson, you've got, like, your network up there. I mean, you're a radio personality, then all of a sudden you find your friends want to call you, as opposed to just texting.
Well,
Because
yeah,
texting doesn't go over the radio.
I hadn't heard from you for a long time. And then he called. Let's talk about Reclamation Road. This, hopefully, it looks like it's going to become a TV show, which makes so much sense. And what you need to do is go to heritagesalvage.com. Heritage Salvage is in Petaluma. And it's a going concern, a great business doing really green and wonderful stuff with the stories and the soul and the heart and the whole thing. But if you go to heritagesalvage.com, scroll down to the end of the page.
On the top of the page now is
Oh, it's on the top
Reclamation
now.
Road.
Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well,
So-
it's become big in our picture.
Yes, well, I hope so.
Shopping them on television is a whole other thing.
Yeah, and who knows when or
Yeah.
how that may happen. But nonetheless, what you need to do, folks, is go to heritagesalvage.com and click on the Reclamation Road button and watch these videos. The Bug doesn't
We
do
are
one every
having
Tuesday.
fun. Yeah. This one, we put the one up. We actually made 2 videos because Sebastian, who does my editing for me, is off with Lagunitas to the High Sierra Music Festival.
From the Highway Poets.
Yes, Highway
indeed.
Poets, indeed.
Aren't they coming in next week or
No, they
soon? Next
have,
week is the. No, wait a minute. You were going to have the what is it?
No, we're going to
Russian
have
River.
Josh. Next week we're going to have Lloyd Kahn
Oh, that's right.
come
Okay.
in. Yeah, Mr. Prolific blogger and book guy and all that cool stuff. And then the week after that, we are having the fabulous gang from Rivertown
Revival.
I think there's going to
Yes.
be 37 people in the room.
Not
I'm
a
not
problem.
sure.
We've fit 3 times 35 kids in this one studio.
You did?
Yeah, 3 times we have.
Yeah. What were they doing? Groveling for pieces of pie from Jaxon?
Food, glorious food. May I have another, sir? No, they're with the Roustabout Theater at Wells Fargo Center. They're amazing,
really?
and they came in and they sing from the play they're doing, the musicals that they're doing and stuff. It's amazing. Now, 35 adults in here. Well, we can handle it. We'll figure it out. But anyway, Rivertown Revival is a really cool thing.
That's
on
the
rest of the river.
17th, on Tuesday
Yeah,
the
okay.
17th. We're gonna do that, and that's why, now I remember the Highway Poets are playing the Petaluma Bounty thing on the 17th, and won't be here,
Okay.
but Josh is gonna come in with Crux, right?
Yeah, with the Crux. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they've been on, and Josh is with us all the time because he brings so many great artists.
And when you think about it, Rivertown Revival is still, going strong, and we lost two big ones this year. We lost Health and
Harmony
Harmony,
Festival.
yeah, and the rail car,
Oh, the
hand
hand car
car, yeah,
you're right.
yeah. I mean, and like they were fabulous.
But they can still make it happen, the Rivertown Revival,
Yeah,
which is a
yeah.
huge thing on the river. And yeah, so 2 weeks from today, we'll have a bunch of those folks, and it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
So go to heritagesalvage.com, at the top there, click on Reclamation Road. Bugs,
Yeah, if you look at it all, he'll explain it all in these videos, but it's so cool. And we talked a few weeks ago, again, about how you were in Ohio and working with the Amish to tear down these buildings, these crumpled, these buildings that are just fading.
And the Amish, they're so hilarious. So see, another scenario with the Amish at one point, the guy with us, one of the Amish guys, he says, well, does this economy sort of affect you the way it affects us? And he looks at him and says, feeding 15 children? Okay, yeah.
But they have their own economy.
Well, they do.
They don't even know who's president or
No, and they don't believe in banks. And so he's actually negotiating in this, in the one we posted today, the Amish is negotiating with me for this huge safe that's in the back of the building. And at one point I say, so what, you're just looking for that to keep all your donations?
Sure.
They don't believe in banks. They don't put money in banks. I mean, it's like cash in the pocket. So, I mean, yeah, hilarious. I just, all the people we meet,
for
and
Thursday,
everybody we
if you're good
involve,
to
and
do.
now I'm actually getting
10:30.
questions
10:30?
from
Yes.
other
What is that?
administrators.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
And then, Mother Jones.
Forget. No, this one is the principal, the CEO of Common Ground International. And they want me, Cal Poly's gonna put up money to go down there and have a conference on how to house the homeless. Well, the homeless thing is, like, how do we house the homeless? Well, have them go where there's empty homes. I mean, it's like, depends on where you wanna live. I mean, like, if I was gonna be homeless, I'd be homeless in maybe LA, cause it's comfortable, as opposed to Anchorage, Alaska. But meanwhile, what about all these empty houses we got? Will we let anybody move into them?
Well, then that's a whole nother story.
Well, I
We
mean,
don't
then we
time
have
for that.
but then you get somebody to garden, so, okay, or do you want to be homeless?
So again, to get back to Reclamation Road.
Sorry.
Jeez, bud. You've been having fun today, haven't you? And fun is the best thing to have.
Yeah.
As I always tell Mike, if you're going to have anything, have fun. So Reclamation Road, you're talking about how, the quote is so great about how the country was,
We need to
was
fix
started.
this country the way it got built, not the way it got broken. And it got built by community. I mean, the natives that lived here forever, their communities all happened around places where they could forage, where there was water, and where there was animals. There was food, and, of course, now, do we ever bring up the fact that there's too many people on the planet? No, that's not allowed. But it got built by community. It got broken by printing money as a Band-Aid. And that's what we constantly seem to want to do here with big government and the way that we run this country. I think we have to decentralize. I think everybody needs to go out and inhabit these small towns because they're great places to live.
Yeah, and there's one of the things Reclamation Road is doing, and you can see again on these videos, going to small towns that they used to have, like you said, 8,000 people, now they got 400 people.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's all these empty houses and barns and things. You take those down.
You
take
teach
the
them
wood-
how to do a heritage salvage,
Yeah,
and at
You
the
reclaim
same
it.
time, you teach them how to reclaim social capital,
right.
which is like the key word, social capital. Everybody in the community gets back together again, talks to each other, figures out who can do what best, and take care of your own community. Start growing organic veggies, start your little organic vegetable store, get that guy, let's see, you got the pigs, you got the corn, let's all
Yeah,
get together.
and instead of tearing down a building and taking the wood to the dumpster or the landfill, you take the wood, as Bug does, and he goes through these and salvages everything and reclaims it, and that's Reclamation Road. Man.
It is.
George Snyder, man, it is a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so
George.
much.
Oh,
for
great to
coming
meet
in,
you
man.
guys too.
Oh, I know Bug. Good to meet you, Steve.
Yeah, and I'd love to have you back on.
Oh, I'd love to
definitely.
be back.
All right, well, there's a lot more to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bugster, Michael Bug D.